Did you see that girl?
I'm Eva.
A jar.
I'd like to go further, even find out what's beyond these rocks. Are you coming?
No!
Hello and welcome to Watchin' Stuff, the show about watching stuff. I'm Nero and with me is my Canadian counterpart whyboy, and we're... Okay. This is a rare ordeal to sort of be situated in when you think about it, because the thing is, I think we've all seen movies where it's like, it's a bad flick, but there's some decent things about it you can pull out.
Yeah.
I think it's really rare to come across a movie where the animation is gorgeous. Like, the backgrounds, the scenery is breathtaking. The character designs are really good. The voice acting is on point. You know, the music is great. And the story is just such a load of crap.
It really is. Like, we were interested in seeing Sahara for a while, ever since we were going to like Netflix lists and seeing all the animated shows and movies and stuff that were coming out for it. And Sahara popped up, and it was just like, oh yeah, that's looking very interesting.
I thought the idea of it, like, it was an animated film, and it was direct to Netflix, which made me believe, like, oh, that's cool. If it's direct to Netflix, that means it doesn't really have to worry too much about studio meddling in any way, because then it sort of plays out that because it's on Netflix, it's sort of an easier appeal because it's a lesser-known company. You can maybe be more experimental. You know, you don't have to go sort of paint by the numbers where it's like, if you watch a lot of Disney films, even the films we enjoy, like you and I enjoyed Moana, but Moana is a very typical Disney movie.
Yeah, indeed. And so we were thinking that something would be sort of new-ish in a sense in Sahara when we first tried to watch it. And we sort of got a little bit of a newish thing going on in the beginning, as we had the main character, Jar, and his little buddy, little scorpion buddy, just out getting some watermelons. And then a bully character comes up and bashes his head in with a rock.
You know.
Yep, that was the newish thing.
What was it? Was it Troy or Trey?
Let me just double check that. It was definitely Troy or Trey.
If you want this watermelon, it'll be over my dead body. Okay.
Because, like, I remember, like, we were sitting there and it's like, why is there always a Troy or a Trey?
Yeah, that thing keeps bringing it up like a sausage party.
You know, he actually had like a cool Middle Eastern-esque name, because, like, okay, this is another thing as we go into the movie, but we have to address this. It's clear that the movie is supposed to be set in the Sahara Desert, which I think is what, Africa?
Yeah, it's Africa. It's the northern Africa.
So it's like their names are supposed to be quote unquote exotic, or at least exotic for like Caucasian audiences. You know, I'm from Arizona, you're from Canada, so they should sound definitely more exotic to people like of us.
Yeah.
And their characters like Ajar, okay, that's actually, I've never heard that name really. Ava, not too exotic, but still, you know, not too common. Omar, Saladin, Pietra. Oh, okay. And then, completely out of left field, Gary.
Yeah.
What happened? Like, I thought we were supposed to... And the thing, too, okay, so, narratively, looking at the movie, we were open-minded to seeing what it was going to entail. And the way it starts up, it looks like it's going to go Romeo and Juliet. 2 snakes, 2 different social classes, and they're going to interact.
But
okay,
but the movie just pulls the rug out under us because it's not Romeo and Juliet. It's a road trip movie.
It's so weird because the opening setup is you meet Ava, and she comes from this pretentious, snooty clan of snakes that reside in an oasis, and then you meet Ajar, who comes from poverty in like the outlands,
which is looking like the ghetto.
My eyes filled with sand, face in the wind, keep moving on this land. Even if they say, hey kid, don't try to stand. As long the world may be, I'll be the man. Never Never judge a book by its cover. When you hook with it, brother, new ruler, you'll discover. Sound shower, these beats, sin and sour. Speak louder, the power with the gunpowder.
Literally sounding like a ghetto in there, like it's putting like a sort of a beatbox beat in the background and everything.
Well, yeah, wasn't it? And then, like, you know, like, he's got, like, the one gang of snakes that, like, bully him. Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, oh, okay, so the way this is going to be is that we have these two different ideologies, you know, these two different social classes look down on each other differently, so there's going to be a conflict of interest there, and we're going to go somewhere with that narrative. Kind of like, you know, maybe not even necessarily Romeo and Juliet. Well, Romeo and Juliet in the sense that it was a boy snake and a girl snake, but the idea is that, you know, you have these two people from two different social classes, which in a lot of ways is also kind of like Aladdin.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna go from there, we're gonna do something with that. And all of a sudden, Ajar meets Ava for maybe a good total of like 4 or 5 minutes. And she gets taken by a snake charmer. And then it becomes a road trip movie about Ajar going to go save Ava along with his scorpion pal Pit. And then for some really weird reason, the movie feels the need to put Gary into the forefront. And Gary's supposed to be Ava's, I guess, younger brother, who's it's not pot.
Yeah, he is an active user of pollen.
Yeah, okay, but so that makes it cocaine?
Yeah.
Because he snorts it?
Yeah, snorts it, sniffs it, and all that. But he's definitely the druggy brother.
Okay, see you later, guys.
Oh, you're going out again?
Yeah, the guys are waiting for me.
And, what are you gonna do?
The usual. Nothing.
Gary, won't you at least take off the wig? I mean, really,
Yeah,
it's been
love you too, Dad. See ya.
Yeah, like he's supposed to be a typical surfer-esque archetype that wants to get high. But instead of, like, doing pot, he snorts pollen from, like, flowers. So the joke is that you have basically a cocaine addict traveling with a jar to go save his sister Ava, and Gary has, like, no sense of urgency.
Yeah, he does not really care at all for Ava at all.
Yeah, like, he doesn't really care if she lives or not. He pretty much just constantly boasts about, like, do you know who my dad is? To like...
Yeah, that's sort of like
get away with
that
things.
prissy sort of mindset that was supposed to be shown in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then it sort of all dissipated just to leave Gary there.
Well, yeah, like they established, like, when Ava complains with her dad how she's sick of being forced to reside in the Oasis, she's not allowed to leave. It's very Jasmine-esque.
Yeah,
where Jasmine wants to, like, leave the palace and see the rest of Agrabah. And then Gary just sort of shows up, and he feels really out of place, honestly.
like, whoa, what's going on? I'm wearing a wig. Where did I get this wig?
He wears, like, a Donald Trump hairpiece for some reason. I don't know what the joke is exactly. I guess because he's a snake, and snakes don't have hair. Maybe he was supposed to look more like a bleach blonde.
I think he's supposed to be pushing towards, like, the surfer dude sort of motif as well. As that was just sort of like,
whoa. But, like, in the context of the film...
It makes no sense.
Where does he get a wig? Like, is there a snake that specializes in making wigs for snakes?
That would be funny if there was just a snake going around with a bag just filled with wigs.
So, then the idea from there is, after Ajar meets Ava, for some reason they're smitten with one another, which is weird because they really don't have any scenes that build up any sort of relationship outside of these two characters just interacted.
Well, there was that really romantic scene where they both jumped off a cliff and just got pulled by rapids.
Yeah, when they were trying to escape the birds that were trying to, like...
arrest them.
Drag them back. Yeah. Yeah, birds are cops, by the way. Like, they serve, like, the wealthy...
The wealthy snakes, even though birds...
Family, but...
birds, like hawks, eat snakes.
Well, it's not even that. Take it a step further. They drop that plot of the birds chasing them after they crash in the desert.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, like, Ajar abducts Gary and threatens to poison him, and then he and Pitt get on the one bird, and they fly out into the desert, and then after they crash that one bird because Pitt accidentally poisons him, but instead of killing him, scorpion venom just knocks him unconscious because it works like a tranquilizer dart. Ha 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 ha. And after they crash that bird, they just leave him in the desert, and it's never addressed again, even though earlier at the beginning when they first abducted that bird, the chief of the birds flat out had stated, we're going to track them down.
What do we do, Chief?
Catch them and bring that freak back alive.
Sergeant?
No, the worm with the rug.
And then the writers or the animators forgot that that was like scenes they were supposed to follow up on.
Yeah.
Because they never follow up on it.
Yeah, if I were to really think of what the movie's biggest issue could have been, is that it feels like it was several different rewrites done into it and just sort of laid out. It wasn't read all the way through. So you had the beginning as a part 1 of the story, then you have part 2, part 3, part 4, which are basically from 5 different scripts and 5 different storylines in a sense. Well, you had three people do the screenplay, but then you had, I'm looking at how many producers, because you know as well as I do, producers are like the biggest meddlers. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we have 7 producers.
Yeah, that would definitely cause a little bit of a power struggle.
Yeah, and I imagine that like some people clearly had one way they wanted this to go, and some people had another way, and it's a shame because it goes all over the place narratively. Like the idea is that you have these 2 social classes. Oh, so we're going to do something like that, like a commentary on social class. No, that gets completely tabled. It's irrelevant. Then it turns into a road trip movie
where the social classes are now having to work together to reach a common goal, which could have worked, but it feels a little bit too. It just doesn't really disjointed in a way because it doesn't really flow with what we've seen before.
Oh yeah, and it doesn't really work anyways because if your idea is good that taking 2 social classes that have to learn to work together and cooperate to understand how to survive, that they're not so different. It's good conceptually, but it doesn't work here because Gary has no urgency.
No urgency.
Situation.
A Jar is left in a position that he has to react to everything that Gary does. Because this is just crappy writing 101, kids. When you have just basically your stupid I'm a stupid bro character causing all the issues, the audience more just sort of puts on that character that we don't like him because he's causing all the issues. Like a Jar's really doing nothing for the entire movie besides reacting to Gary and all of his
well, because like most of the problems seem to be that it's not that the trek is hard, it's that Gary is a burden making the trek hard.
Yeah, like one of the key scenes that I can remember is that like they were going through some cracks and such, and Ajar and Pil were just walking through, and Gary falls into a hole, and so Ajar goes back to try to help him. But then Gary just tugs them both in, so now they're all trapped underground.
Fantastic. How are you ever gonna get me out of here now?
Why didn't you warn us?
Hey, you're the rescuers here, I believe.
Logically speaking, the way that the film's kind of set up, Ajar really wouldn't have too many obstacles to deal with because he grew up in the wilderness and in a less plush location like an oasis. So he understands how to survive in the desert. He's savvy enough that he'd be fine.
Yeah, so you basically
you need someone to drag him down.
Yeah, put a cinder blocking it on his tail to basically just drag him along.
Yeah. And that's the thing, Gary doesn't work. He becomes annoying, and the thing is, it's one of those situations where the writer thinks if there's a character that constantly causes problems for another, that is comedic. It's the same thing where it's like, if you ever watch the Star Wars prequels, that's Jar Jar Binks. Like, oh, isn't Jar Jar funny because, like, he's a bit of a goof up, and he makes things more annoying for the main characters? No, because you get fed up with that character, just like the characters in the movie are getting fed up with that character. So, as an audience, what's really the reaction truly supposed to be? If we're supposed to enjoy this character, shouldn't the effect be that it's comedic, not that we're all just getting frustrated and, like, sick of it?
Yeah, exactly. And shouldn't the main character also be experiencing what the writer wants? Like, some sort of enjoyment from the antics of the comic relief? It's supposed to be a relief to everything, not adding to just the dramas of everything.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that Gary is very much Jar Jar Binks. And I'd argue even more so, because at least Jar Jar was downplayed eventually, even if he was annoying as hell in episode 1, whereas Gary is constantly fucking up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at one point, they managed to find a car that a bunch of tourists were on, and the idea was that Gary, Pitt, and Ajar were going to slip on the truck. They were going to then use it to get to the town where the snake charmer was heading, so they can go and rescue Ava. But because Gary has such a horrible fixation with his fucking cocaine addiction, he starts snorting some flowers he sees, and the two snakes get thrown out into the middle of the desert, and Gary basically just puts it all on a jar that's like, oh, well, you know, if you weren't such a screw-up or your friend wasn't an idiot, you know, your little scorpion dude is probably going to be dead, by the way.
This is all your fault.
True that.
Since the beginning, you've been nothing but a giant pain in the tail.
It's true. I wasn't very helpful.
And now my only friend is getting crushed.
Yeah, probably.
Gary is that annoying character where it's like, the film couldn't naturally design any sort of obstacles to occur. So the outcome is they need to artificially set up obstacles by having another character, but not an antagonistic character, having the comedic character being the one causing problems. And they don't seem to realize that's not how you do these kinds of stories.
No, not at all.
Like, if Omar was the obstacle because he's the snake charmer, he abducted Ava, that would make sense. But not only is Omar not really a villain, he's a snake charmer. He's a dude just doing his job. Yeah,
and everything that he does is just usually what sort of normal snake charmers do. Even down to the fact that he just skins snakes that that are useless to him.
Yeah, and then he turns them into, like, belts and he sells them. Because that's what he does to make a living. It's not out of a sense of...
Gotta kill the snakes.
Yeah, it's not a sense of maliciousness.
No.
It doesn't work. Like, honestly, Gary comes off more malicious because Gary is such an asshole.
Yeah, I was going to disagree with you. Like, definitely Gary comes off as the antagonistic character in all of this. And he's supposed to be like that comedic antagonist. Like how in love stories, the boy and the girl are sort of antagonists of each other, as that's what the main drama is. In this story, he was supposed to be the comedic relief, but in the end, he was written as sort of the comedic antagonist of everything.
Well, like, the way you explained it, that's like Princess and the Frog, because, like, Naveen is out with Tiana, and at first they don't like each other, obviously. He's a snobbish prince, she's a hardworking girl from the city. But obviously, as the narrative progresses and they go on, they get to know each other, understand each other better, and grow as people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a natural narrative thing. And then the comic relief is like Lewis, the big crocodile that plays a trumpet. And that works. But in here, there's no growth of character between anybody. There's no growth of character between Ajar and Pitt. You know that they're best friends because that's the archetypes that they play.
And they basically just state that.
We don't have anyone but each other.
No. Don't do that.
And I'm really getting sick of these tropes where it's like, one friend goes to do something and the other friend feels horribly obligated.
I'm not planning on dying with you, you know.
You don't have to come with me.
And you're not gonna make me. No one is ever gonna make me! All right, come on, wait for me.
They couldn't just actually, want to help or anything. They always had to just go, oh, we shouldn't really be doing this, but I'll just come along anyways. Oh, I'm nervous.
No one, like, yeah, that's like some Scooby-Doo level shit, but that excuse is that was like in what, the 60s or 70s?
Yeah.
So, like, it was old and different. By, like, 2017, I'd like to think narratively we found new methods of telling stories and better methods of telling stories.
Yeah, there's more of a variety of how somebody can react to that.
Yeah, instead of just having, like, the friend that's timid.
Yeah, like, the friend could basically say something like, oh, we shouldn't do this, but I'll help along anyways. Like, just being the one that's actually trying to be supportive, rather than just always just the timid friend who's apprehensive to everything.
Yeah, and that's annoying. It's really annoying. For something that's supposed to be a love story, it's...
a terrible love story.
It's funny, like, you and I were having this discussion a while back where we were like, man, you know what? Disney movies really feel like it's hard to make the relationships feel genuine. Like Anna and Kristoff, we saw that movie and we were like, really?
Yeah, they sort of just get off together.
Yeah, they sort of shack up and it's like, okay, I didn't feel anything, but...
Yeah, they just seem like they could be friends or something, not just boyfriend and girlfriend that they're spending a night together.
But this one felt like... This is like arguably one of the worst ones. Because, like, at least with other with, like, older Disney films, like, I'm sure you've seen Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, right? Yeah, like, the old-fashioned fairy tale is that, someone will hurt you, but someone will eventually come along and they'll be your knight in shining armor, they'll help you, they'll save you.
Yeah, so that through line sort of makes sense to why those sort of relationships would be able to be attachable as an audience member.
Yeah.
Here, what do we have to attach to? A jar lost Ava just after, like, the 2 minutes of being together?
Yeah, like they meet each other, pretend to be the snake of each other. One pretends to be like an oasis snake, one pretends to be a desert snake because they hate their situation. Again, and then you think, oh, maybe it'll be like Prince and the Pauper or something, where they like, sort of switch it up a little bit. And then they get chased by a bird, fall into water, their mud and like stuff they put on them washes off. They realize each other are different snakes from different things, and then Ava's abducted, and it becomes a road trip movie.
That's very apropos that basically, as soon as the mud washed off from their bodies, it changed movies completely.
Yeah, it's almost like it's washing away whatever story they were setting up to do something else entirely different.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they don't even follow up on stuff they do set up, like a jar can't swim. Never followed up on.
They're in the desert throughout the entire rest of the movie. When's he going to swim?
And that's the thing. It's like, why bring up something if you're not going to address it later? What's the point?
It's a movie of Chekhov's guns.
Like, the only thing that they actually followed up on, which is really awkward, is there's a part where a jar is trying to get inside a building and he needs Gary's help, and Gary decides not to snort coke. My character arc is done.
Why did you get off the flowers?
Yeah, pollen doesn't actually have that effect last time I checked, so...
But even if the pollen did have that sort of effect, what actually changed in the movie to basically make Gary do that? A jar didn't even chew his ass out or anything over that.
Well, like, he only chewed him out on that, like, they got thrown out of the truck. But he didn't, like, specifically, like, address, if you weren't such a worthless cokehead, you'd probably actually be more useful.
Yeah, and even if he did do that, Gary was never the character that basically just go, oh, wow, I'm going to be self-reflective of myself and my life choices.
Yeah, it's a weird thing where it's like, oh, maybe it'll be addressed. Maybe, as they go through the desert, he's dealing with, withdrawal, which they don't do. And then, like, oh, maybe he'll have a relapse, but then overcome it in the third act. And it's not even really that. He just snorts some freaking pollen, and then all of a sudden in the third act, it's just like, yeah, I'm done with this part of my character. Moving on.
Yeah. No, it's a funny thing. Like, at the beginning of the movie, we were thinking Pitt was going to be the annoying character.
No, they kind of get rid of Pitt. Like,
yeah, after
second act, they throw him out and leave Gary in a jar together, and that's it. And then they have to give Pitt a plot about finding a female scorpion, and then, like, finding his way to the town that he has no idea where to go to meet up with a jar again.
Yeah, it feels like these three different writers were writing different stories altogether, and just basically collided together to make this.
I think, though, you and I could agree that animation-wise, though, it was gorgeous.
Oh, it was stunning, really.
They have this really cool big-lipped alligator moment with the snake charming dances, And it's really just visually, it's very fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, the whole story behind that is, like, Ava has a whole subplot where the snake charmer...
there's another subplot.
Yeah, the snake charmer basically has sort of a I can't even... I don't even know how to really phrase this because it's so fucking stupid.
He has, like, a religious belief of snakes?
No, not even that. It was basically inside of his basket where all his snakes are. It's basically a snake dancing school. Where there's rooms for the snakes.
You understand how that happens, right? I looked this up. It turns out that the Time Lords create technology where stuff is bigger on the inside. So the basket is clearly working on TARDIS-level technology. And that's why somehow a normal-looking basket actually has small built-in rooms for individual snakes who are dancers. And by the way, again with the stereotyping, they're like 2 dumb blonde snakes.
Don't worry. You're not that fat.
Check this out. When you get hungry, you do this and poof. You're not hungry anymore. You're one of us now. One of us. One of us. One of us. One of us.
Yeah.
Like there's a pair of like dumb blonde archetype snakes. There's the prissy rival snake that doesn't like Ava because she's like, oh, you're the new blood. You think you're better than me.
And
that's
super
a subplot.
Small lips on her too. I just always noticed that about her character.
I'm Pietra. The company has one prima ballerina. Me. Keep that in mind and everything will be just fine.
So there are you have the 2 dim-witted twin snakes that are like, oh my gosh, you just basically the vanillas.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh, girl! I can't even breathe. Whoa!
And then you have the rival female snake that hates Ava because Ava needed a rival in her subplot. Then you have a fat dancing school instructor that's really pretentious. And then you got George, which is a male snake who's named George because the actor does an impersonation of George Takei.
Hello. Everything is going to be fine. George is here.
I don't even know what to say to that.
It's
so
dumb.
stupid.
But like the choreography though, the animation is fantastic. The character designs look good. The animation itself is very fluid. The voiceover, no one gives a bad performance. They're just bad characters.
Yeah, really. Like in a better written story, like this would be incredible. It would be one of the movies that I would say like this is like a gem that needs to be unearthed and shown to everybody, like a fishtail and such. But no, I would not recommend this. No.
And final verdict. What would you?
Before the final verdict, I do want to mention one other scene with the love story, just to basically just puts the cherry on top of why this is a horrible love story.
Sure.
Yeah. In the third act, we have a Jar and Gary going to the top, going down, and who does he see in the glass cage? Ava and George.
Ava and George, yeah.
Yeah, and they're just getting very close together, and a Jar looks at them, looks all sad, and starts to climb right back up again.
Oh yeah! Oh, I totally forgot. She's trapped in Omar, the snake charmer's like hut, and that's also like his skinning workstation where he skins snakes to make them into like belts and sashes. And he's ready to leave Ava there because she wasn't committed to him.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Hey, where are you going?
What a piece of shit!
Yeah, that immediately just switches you liking a Jar to just immediately hating a Jar.
Before it was a dude who, like, okay, the romance isn't well-founded whatsoever in the beginning, but he clearly felt something with her that he would go to great lengths to come and help her. That could be commendable. The fact that, like, the moment he sees her with another guy, he's like, oh, well, my dick ain't getting sucked tonight. Fuck this noise. And you're like, what the fuck? You came here just for an award? Really?
Yeah, it's the award of being with a relationship, not for the noble act of just saving the girl that you're sort of interested in.
What a fucking asshole!
Like, even if we just took the whole thing, like, the bare bones, like, I only knew you for 4 minutes, but I'll still save you anyways. There's a nobility to that you can like a Jar for. Even if it ended up with George, it would have still been fine. A Jar could just say, you know, I like you, and I'm glad you're happy with George. I'm off on my own adventures now.
Yeah, I'm just happy you're safe.
Yeah.
And instead it's just like, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to get my balls fondled anytime soon. Fuck this noise. Why am I even here? And you sit there, you think about it, and you're like, Well, what the fuck, man? You came here only because you want to get your knob gobbled? That was the whole... The whole... You know what? Fucking rock bottom. Fuck this. That's horrible because, like, basically everything you could have known about this character is completely undone in that shit.
It really doesn't, especially when you have Gary as the voice of reason saying, like...
Well, that depends. Are you just gonna stand there and whine? Or are you gonna save my sister? Did you put up with me all of those miles for nothing?
Yeah, the cokehead is the voice of reason.
Oh my god.
Fuck it, man. Rock bottom. Like, I love everything else, but everything else is inconsequential, because think about it this way, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to look at. You know what that makes it? It makes it an over-glorified picture.
Yeah, exactly. Just a bunch of moving pictures. Just put it on mute, and then you can just watch it all the way through. Definitely as a movie, I'd have to give it a rock bottom, too.
Well, like, artistically, it's great. I hope to God, I really do hope this studio will make more movies, but get better writing.
Yeah, definitely. It needs better writers on this.
Look, your writing should not be on par with Alpha and Omega in terms of writing capability, but not look as good as, like, a high-end DreamWorks film.
Yeah, really. And it's very sad that we could make those sort of comparisons. Alpha and Omega was a better Romeo and Juliet story than this.
And that one looked like shit, too.
Yeah, well, the first one was basically, like, sea level.
Yeah, it was just passable, but as you've seen by the sequels we've watched, it clearly got progressively worse.
Oh, definitely with Splash Entertainment.
So, yeah, we're going with Rock Bottom on this. It's on Netflix. If you want to watch it, we're not going to recommend it, but you can. You know,
I would only recommend it if you just put it on mute and just put it on the background as just sort of like an artistic interest in it.
Yeah, if you're the kind of person that just likes to see like fluid animation and like really cool character designs, it works on that level, but that's it. It doesn't work any other way whatsoever.
No, not at all.